then and another time that we have assembled ourselves together to discuss the business of Jasper County, Lord. We ask that you would go with us in our deliberations and that the decision that you make would be pleasing to thee and beneficial to the people of Jasper County. But most of all, Lord, we pray that we will make the decisions that would be pleasing to you. Father, we thank you for all of your many blessings. We ask you to bless each and every one that's present in the building. We give you all the praise and we give you all the glory. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to thank Dr. Wasser for education and the pledge of allegiance. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this afternoon.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
A motion by Mr. Jenkins and a second by Dr. Butler. Ready for questioning? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda, ready to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13, 2024 meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the February 13th, 2024 meeting.
Motion by Dr. Buckner to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Robinson. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? The next thing on the agenda for this evening is new business amended to Plan Development District PDD standards and Master Plan CSP development. Ms. Wagner, if you will, bring us up to date on this, and we'll hear from you and the applicant if is present.
Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. The applicants are with us this evening. They're here. Mr. Zadarski, Mike Loven, Jeff Ackerman with Carolina Engineering,
Jeff Cox.
Jeff
Cox.
and Jeff Cox. So this is a request for an approval of an amendment to the CSP Plan Development District Standards and the CSP Master Plan. The CSP PDD was approved by Jasper County Council on June 27, 2022 as a single family for rent community with a maximum density of 275 units. The plan was for them all to be situated on one parcel of land consisting of 38.84 acres, and the property is located along Independence Boulevard, which is Highway 278 between Brickyard Road and Hilton Head Lakes. The CSP Master Plan was approved by the Planning Commission on October 11, 2022. The purpose of amending the CSP PDD document is to add language to the approved PDD standards that allow residential uses for rent or for sale that can be situated on unsubdivided land or subdivided land. The approved CSP PDD only assumes for rent single-family residential units, all being located on the one parcel, but in order to support the residential uses for sale on subdivided lots, minimum lot size and setbacks are included as part of the proposed amendment. So you all received a binder that's for CSP, and the Section 1 of the CSP Single Family Development PDD DA and Master Plan Amendment application contains a red line version outlining the language to be amended in the PDD document. And then the purpose of amending the CSP Master Plan is to make changes to the approved Master Plan document that reflects the same standards as the CSP PDD. And Section 5 of this document, it has the red line version outlining the language to be amended in the master plan. So in accordance with Jasper County Zoning Ordinance Article 8:1, 11, number 5, states any changes to the master plan shall require that a revised master plan be submitted to the Planning Commission, and it states redesignation of land uses within a development area or phase, building heights, setbacks, and buffers, changes in the location of roads or widths of streets or right-of-ways within the master plan, which are not minor changes, changes in the allocation of housing density within the master plan, and any proposed increase in density of the master plan, which are not minor changes, and or the lot size and dimensions. So the redesignation of land use is not changing. It'll still be for single-family residential. The density is not changing. It's still going to be 275 units. However, the project type would be allowed to have the option for rent and or for sale. None of the other criteria that's outlined, aside from the lot sizes and setbacks, will be changed. Any future subdivision that might come before us in this PDD will have to come to Planning Commission and go through the preliminary plat and the final plat process. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendment to the CSP Development PDD standards and the CSP Master Plan. Again, the applicant's with us tonight. If you have any questions for him, or if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, if you will, the individual that's representing him, would he come forward and give us an update on?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Glad to be here. I've been in front of you virtually 2 times before. This is my 3rd trip, and I'm here in person. I'm glad to see all y'all. Back in 2021, I put this property under contract, and we elected to pursue the entitlements for sort of a hybrid in the residential industry, the single-family rental community. Somewhat new at that particular period of time. I would typically say something to the order of, in its infancy, the SFR build-to-rent community concept. But in any event, we thought it would be a great way to introduce the product, that type of residential community product into the area. There are a few communities like that in the area already that are a little bit in front of us. But the big picture with respect to our project, the business plan is going to remain unchanged. It's going to be a single-family rental community. It will be owned and operated by one owner, which is the customary practice for rental communities. And me seeking approval for the for sale option is really a criteria for acquiring the financing for my project. In the event of a borrower's default or something to the equivalent of another economic national event that would crush the economics of the project, if there was, as unlikely as it will be or could be, the ability for a debtor, a lender, to put his arms around the real estate and begin to liquidate either all or portions of the property to recover or remedy a default is what is being put on me to acquire financing for my project. Without it, I don't have a project. With respect to the plan itself, there's nothing about the plan that you approved as the Planning Commission, that you approved back when we acquired the PDD approval from the Commission, and about the master plan. There's nothing about the plan that has changed. The standards that we're introducing that would be applicable should we come in for platting the subdivision are developed based on the plan that you approved, that I designed, that was presented to the Planning Commission and was subsequently approved. So the standards don't change anything about the plan that you approved. The plan that you saw is essentially the same plan that was submitted to Lisa's office for purposes of acquiring its land development permit. A land development permit, which we hope to acquire in, I'd probably say, the next month. So it's been, the plan that we presented to you has been approved by, we have our coastal zone consistency certificate from the state. We have our wetland permits from the federal government, from the Corps of Engineers. We have DHAC, state of South Carolina, DHAC approval for stormwater management, soon to acquire approval for final construction approval for water and sewer from Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority. And I think I'm missing one. Oh, South Carolina DOT. They approved our entrances and our road connections a long time ago that were consistent, that were supported by the TIA, the traffic impact analysis that gave them now over a year ago. But the improvements that are being permitted by DOT are also consistent with the original plan that we submitted to the commission. So from big picture and enclosure, the plan has, approving these amendments is not going to change the plan. It's not going to change the physical aspects of the plan. It's not going to change the configurations of roads or stormwater management ponds or how we connect to the highway. All of that remains unchanged. The only thing that would change is allowing me to essentially have I sort of characterize it as my lifeboat option. You know, in the event that I've got to abandon ship, okay, because of some catastrophic event, I have an option to help me survive. That's all. That's all it is. It'll still be the most obtainable housing in this part of Jasper County, from the standpoint of people who can afford, who can't afford to buy. Okay, the option given to them by a rental community can get them into, in our particular case, for those of you that are not familiar with our plan, we have single-family detached homes and townhouses, and a large park, which is pretty unusual if you look at our plan. The long and short of it is that those things will be rental homes. They will all have garages. They will all have front yards. They will all have backyards. Okay, they'll all have sidewalks. Okay, and you know, for those that can't afford the $500,000 or $600,000 homes in Hilton Head, Lakes North, or wherever, okay, they have at least an option to come to our community to see whether or not they can afford the rent. So with that, that's the state of the ship, pardon my pun, with respect to my project and the reason why I'm standing in front of you this evening. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
I'll start with Mr. Robinson. Do you have any questions for him or Ms. Wagner?
The only thing that really comes to mind is when it comes, and it's probably more to the county than the applicant, would be in the for sale component. And it sounds like it could be subdivided as a potential portion of in the need that it came up, but how does that affect, and I'm just thinking of other communities, has that ever happened?
It's a you know, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't type of thing. What you hope is that that it never happens. Okay, but for underwriting purposes today, you know, the economic world for me, okay, when I was standing in front of you in 2022, by way of example, the Fed rate was under 1%. Okay, today it's 5.5%. Okay, the criteria for guys like me to seek, you know, and acquire financing for these projects is extraordinarily hard. Okay, it's very, very difficult, and they're very, very demanding. And as such, it's like when they say we got to have this or else. Okay, I'm not the bank. It's like that's what I got to seek to acquire approvals for. And in today's world, that's what I'm being asked to do. And a footnote to this too, with respect to the subdivision process, okay, when we are going to subdivide the lots, okay, and they will still be all rental homes. That plan you see, okay, all we're going to do is draw lines, okay, this, around the houses, that are already approved and as configured and oriented on the plan that you approved. We'll be coming back with our preliminary plats for approval through Lisa's office. That again will be in front of you again for another time. But the long and short of it is that in order for us to subdivide, like any other developer would subdivide a property, in our particular case, because my original approvals were for rent only on one parcel, on 38-acre parcel, under one ownership. In closing, each house will be on legally platted lots, for rent, still under one ownership, okay? The ownership guy is sitting in that seat right over there, okay? So that's my story.
Ms. Lisa, if it goes to the for sale component, does that change any of the, I know we have another project later we're reviewing that's not similar, but we're talking about setbacks potentially changing, but does that have any effect on any of that in the future? As what would be approved if it was not for rent versus for sale?
So what was approved in the PDD was just the for rent component on the one lot. So the setbacks were from the property lines. They weren't internal. So in order to have the option to subdivide, you have to come up with standards for lot sizes and setbacks. So that's part of this amendment tonight. That's when it comes to you for a subdivision plat, we'll be looking at it to make sure it meets those standards.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
But the layout of it and the density will not change.
Mr. Jenkins?
I'm an advocate of affordable housing,
Yes.
and I thought I heard you say $500,000.
Let me see, I have my
You were talking about the
Hilton Head Lakes North.
Oh, Hilton Head
Lakes. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay.
yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you know the average income of a citizen in Jasper County.
I really do not. I don't.
And I am so concerned about it.
And I think 2 years ago, we talked about the same thing.
Yes, sir.
And my answer remains pretty much the same, which is, this is, you want to steer, developers like me want to steer away from words like market rate affordable, okay? Because I don't want to mislead anybody. So I'm going to tell you, as I've mentioned before, I think back then I used market rate affordable. Today it's the most, we would characterize the community, an SFR community, okay, of our type, as being the most obtainable housing, okay, in this part of Jasper County. The units will be, average size between, I don't know, let me see here. Where's my experts?
1,000 at the small side and 1,700 on the large side. The average across the community will be about 1,400
square feet for rent. And back when we were talking, Commissioner Jenkins, we've all been through it. The things have gone up, rents have gone up, house prices have gone up, milk has gone up, gas has gone up. Okay, and like I said, when we were talking back in 2022, the Fed rate was 0.08%. Okay, gas was still under, probably in the $2 something range. Okay, and since then, inflation has taken its toll. Everything is a lot more expensive. I'm speaking the obvious, but I'm speaking the truth. Okay, we will have the most affordable residential housing, house housing, okay, in Jasper County.
And Mr. Jenkins, he was comparing this housing product as an option rather than the $500,000 and $600,000.
Yeah, these are not.
That's what he was saying.
We're not putting houses up for sale.
Rang a bell in my head when I heard that.
Oh, yeah, my
Ain't
apologies.
nobody live in Jasper
My
County.
apologies.
That's what's selling, no?
Yeah, that's Kim.
I'm sorry.
Lisa, my last question. In 2020, when this plan came before us, it was under the, what uses it was then?
It was just the for rent community on one parcel. of
On one
land.
parcel.
That's why it's before you tonight. So tonight is really, you're just taking action to change the language
Oh.
in the PDD text
Okay.
to provide another option where a for sale option and a subdivided
Okay.
lots could be introduced. We're not taking action to have that tonight, that'll come back. But it's just to change the text. And also to go ahead and approve the master plan to line up with that. It could be either or, because we've already approved the master plan and the layout and the density does not change. The
Nothing like that
layout of
changes.
the community stays the same.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Bosch?
Lisa, you said the density will not change, even rather we went with renting or for sale, regardless of the setbacks?
That's correct. Mr. Ackerman is their engineer who's been working on it, and he's looked at it real well to make sure that the subdivision lots can, where the lot lines will line up with each unit, the setbacks. That was included in this document. I don't know if y'all saw that. I'd be happy to bring it up for you if you want to, but
We provided our,
yeah.
we took the community, and essentially, when we first submitted it, we didn't have lot lines and things like that, because we were not anticipating subdivision. But when we actually engineered it, we actually had lines, okay, to establish our lots, so we could figure out how to configure the houses, how to keep the houses away, to meet other building code standards like setback for fire ratings and things like that. All of that was done. So you can have driveway lengths that don't have your car parked on a sidewalk, hanging over the end of a sidewalk. So you have backyards and things like that. So we took what was approved, and we knew that if we subdivided it, okay, we'd have to create, at the advice of Mr. Tedder, told me that I should prepare a table of standards for my own project. So we established the standards for our own project so that the plan that you see could be subdivided, okay? And when it goes to Lisa, she'll have the standards, okay, for my community, and the plat will have to conform to standards adopted for my community. That's all. And so, and if we deviate from that, we'll have to get, I guess, deviations approvals, but nobody's contemplating that at the moment.
That's all I had, Mr. Hay.
Well, Dr. Butler?
Most of my questions have been answered. I do have a question, Lisa. The setbacks that are proposed for the for sale homes, those are consistent with all requirements for sale homes that are other projects. This is not any different.
It is consistent with other PDDs. So, as you know, when the Plan Development District comes before you, it is a lot of it's negotiated. They have their own standards. The Centerpoint PDD had like 0 side yard setbacks, and so this one here, page 12 of section 1 of this book, is it does show you.
We established, we established our own setbacks.
Yeah, 10 feet from the interior Minor Street. They'll still maintain that 60-foot setback from Highway 278. The plan was already designed for that. So,
Right. But the change that we're making is specifically to allow him to sell these homes. So that changes the whole ballgame. And I'm wondering how that compares to other subdivisions and other requirements in regard to the setbacks. And
The
Back
other
side.
PDDs that have subdivision standards are very similar to this. Some are even less than this.
okay, and
Yes.
how was this decided? Who
How-
came, why was it decided that 30, this says square feet, I'm one, or SQ, I mean SF? Is that square?
Detached.
Hmm?
SF is single family.
Say- okay, but
SFB is single family detached.
So what does the 30 mean then? Underneath,
The
it
30
says,
feet for subdivided residential minimum lot width,
Mhm.
that's
Lot
the
width.
lot width.
That's a lot.
so the lots will be 30 feet wide?
Cannot be any less than 30 feet.
Cannot
Doesn't
be.
mean they are going to be 30 feet.
Yeah, that's a
The
minimum.
minimum is 30 feet.
Okay, 30 feet wide, and they will, the side yards will be 5 feet apart?
Or 10 feet between buildings, minimum.
That's the setbacks.
And the rear yard 10 feet.
Minimum.
Minimum's 10.
So,
And by the way, can I ask you one second? And there's nothing on our plan right now that has a 10-foot yard, 10-foot backyard. These are all minimums.
right,
Okay? Because it's a 200 and some odd unit community. You want to start off with a house assumption today. By the time you get to number 200, you may want to change a unit type or house type. So nobody exercises clairvoyance on our side. But so we, at the advice of David Tedder, he said, Peter, I want to see a table. So we went ahead and created a table that would accommodate the units that we have today, configured and oriented, as you approved of.
So these setbacks will not change the layout. The layout that was approved
yeah, I
is
understand that, but
completely the same, and they had to go in and look at it to make sure where the minimum lot widths, setbacks and all could be. So this is in line with other PDD standards. You know, each one's a little different based on what their uses are.
okay, but most importantly, it complies with the standards set forth by the county in terms of setbacks. That's all I was really asking. We aren't
It
doing
doesn't
anything
meet our
different
Article
here.
7 because that's for resident. In our article, we don't have PDD standards. Each PDD has their own standards.
So
if they
his-
don't
his setbacks
adopt the
could be different
standard,
from yours and from mine, depending on our project, and is that what you're saying?
These would be the standards only if it's subdivided.
Okay.
On the one lot that they have for the for rent community, it met all of the county standards in Article 7 because it was one lot.
Right, I understood
Yeah.
that, I did get that. Okay. On the master plan, tab 5 and 6, Exhibit M, Sheet 2, interior roads is showing red line, but I'm unclear about the change in the interior roads. And I looked at the final presented drawing, and I can see sidewalks and, but I wasn't clear what was being changed. It says C, master plan, and when I looked at that page, it wasn't there.
What are you referring to again? I'm
It's,
sorry.
the red line portion where it does, look on page 2, let's see, 2 of 3, under tab 5.
What tab is that?
Tab 5 toward the back.
Mhm, and look on 2 and 3. It's just a question, I'm not sure. It says, this is detailed on sheet 2 of the Exhibit M master plan. I couldn't find it. I just wanted to know what the changes are there on the interior roads.
Detail on sheet 2 of the exhibit
Would
M
be-
for the master
I
plan.
think this is the sheet 2. Did you see this one?
I think that's the one I found, but I wasn't sure. So what is the change? That's all I'm asking. What is the
change?
change?
Is that we took, again, the advice of Mr. Tedder. He said, I would like to see a schematic on how you apply, your setbacks, how a house would be oriented with respect to the street. So we took standards. I don't want to be too long-winded, but we assumed a typical standard 50-foot right-of-way, Jasper County standard right-of-way for our homes, for our internal streets. and then we adopted a 5-foot sidewalk and the 24-foot pavement section, right, Jeff? Which is all pretty much county standards, okay? And then from there, we apply our own standards, like the 22 feet from the back face of the back edge of a sidewalk to the front face of a garage, so a car that was parked in front of a garage would not be flying over, the rear end wouldn't be flying over the sidewalk. And then we show how you can have, even though you may have a garage setback, 23 feet or whatever it is from the back face of the sidewalk, doesn't mean the front of the house has to be that far. So we said, in order to get the utility corridor in, a 10-foot utility, which is a standard, plus the sidewalk, which is not standard, it's bigger. And in a yard, we said, the front house can only be 4 feet in front, okay? 4 feet closer to the sidewalk, to the street, than the face of the garage. And then if you didn't have a garage, which today all of our units have garages, okay? But if someday in the future, okay, there was a product that was introduced that didn't have, somebody proposed to not have a sidewalk, okay, is that the front face of the garage or the house or any part of the house couldn't be any closer than 23 feet to the edge of the curb and gutter. And then that's pretty much what this shows. And we also show.
But you can see the changes. If you look at the page right before tab 5, the last page before tab 5. So she's trying to discern what the changes are, but if you turn back to the page right before tab 5,
Yeah.
that is what's adopted. That's the original master plan. So you can see what's been added on, which is the minimum backyard, the home depth varies, the front face of the principal structures, and all of that information there.
So what part of that deals with the interior road? Because that's what's redlined over here. That's all I wanted to know. You crossed it out, you redlined it, and said, we're taking this out. Please see sheet 2 of the Exhibit M master plan.
So she's
I couldn't
on
find
that
it. I just want to know what the change
24
is.
foot wide asphalt detail on sheet 2 of the exhibit. So that is,
I'm gonna try to explain. The only thing that you got rated down was about a 24-foot wide pavement section. I wanted to expand, to help everybody understand what my cross sections were going to look like. So I drew up in more detail, the 24-foot section plus the 5-foot setbacks.
So there's really nothing
There's
changing?
nothing different.
Okay. I just wanted to know what's
okay, so if you look at the red line version at the very top where the 2 cars are, it shows the 24 foot.
It does, I know,
Yeah,
that's why I
okay.
said it's exactly what was written there, and I couldn't understand that because they matched, but you were taking it out and I didn't understand why. Okay, thank you, I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to understand what the change was. This is kind of weird, but these houses are gonna have numbers and all of that emergency services information?
Oh, yeah,
They
definitely so.
will be required to, yes, and they'll need road names, and that'll come to you for approval.
Okay.
Once they make application, that's gonna move to GIS now, so they'll make application, and they'll go through the database and
Okay.
make sure that those road names are available, and a petition will be forwarded to you all.
Okay, so their next step will come to us, is that right?
Well, their next step is to get to the county council
To get this approved?
for the PDD.
Okay.
Right now, they're working on a development plan approval, major site plan, to get a permit to begin the infrastructure. That's being reviewed as a for-rent community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when and if they come in for a subdivision plat, that'll come here, or before they get, before they can start building, with this land development permit, once the roads are put in and all, they'll need to come for the road name approval, whichever happens first. So.
Okay, I wasn't sure, So would that have been different had this remained a for-rent community? I can't remember our discussions in that regard.
They would still need the road names
And
and
the
the
house
addresses,
and all that.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, each unit needs the sub, yes.
Okay, I think everything else was asked by somebody else. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa.
Mr. Lee?
My questions have been answered, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question or comment from anyone else?
I just have a comment. I just hope maybe next time you come before us with this, but it's 200 and some unit, you can say, well, Mr. Jenkins, I talked to the boss and 20 of these units gonna be affordable.
You know what, I'm dealing with the same thing up north. You know, I'm dealing with the same thing up north. And I don't blame anyone asking that question, okay? But I know I should probably walk away from this microphone. But it's a partnership between the developer and the public authority to make that happen, okay? To create real affordable housing, okay? It takes a private-public partnership to get it done, okay? Otherwise, okay, developers like me, I got to put up with the lenders and the equity investors and the municipalities and their fees. Take away the $5,000, impact fees that I have to pay. Okay, that'll go towards the reduction of the blah blah blah. It takes two. Okay, and the next time I'll do exactly what you have asked me to do. If I come back in here with another community, I'm going to sit down with you. Okay, and we'll see how we can make that 20% work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just, I understand you to say, even though you were requesting that you could sell these houses, but the real plan is to be a total rental.
The business plan has not changed. This is going to be built and owned as a single-family rental community. A house is only going to be sold, okay, if there is a catastrophic economic event and the owner, which will be me and Jeff, is compelled to do so, okay, by other parties. Period.
Commissioners, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission accept the staff recommendation, which would approve the proposed amendment to the CSP Development PDD standards and the CSP Master Plan, which would allow for sale options situated on subdivided lots and include minimum lot sizes, dimensions, and setbacks.
Commissioner Jenkins, second.
Motion have made by Dr. Buckner that we accept the recommendation from staff. I'm not going to go through all the verbiage. And second by Mr. Jenkins. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it known by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposers by the same sign. The motion is approved unanimous. Thank you very much, and we hope you have a great with your endeavor. The next thing on the agenda this evening is the Master Plan Center Point Storage Phase 2.
This request is for approval of a master plan for Center Point Storage Phase 2. The subject property consists of 15.59 acre parcel located at 5001 North Oakity Highway. It's part of the Center Point Planned Development District. The Center Point PDD was approved by Jasper County Council on August 19, 2008. The Center Point Storage Phase 1 Master Plan was approved by the Jasper County Planning Commission on October 11, 2022. This master plan has been developed in accordance with the Center Point PDD standards and the concept plan and the Center Point Development Agreement. So a master plan is a plan for the overall utilization of a particular area, including allocation of land uses and infrastructure. This master plan anticipates development of a mixture of different storage and commercial uses, including warehouse and flex space, commercial office in the front and storage in the rear. The current plan calls for approximately 38,800 square feet of warehouse space and 22,750 square feet of commercial flex space. The development will include associated parking and required stormwater treatment facilities. The site is across the highway from Camp St. Mary's Road. The access road, which was included in the Phase 1 master plan, is currently under construction and was designed in the location originally specified in the PDD access master plan, and it lines up with the Camp St. Mary's Road. The road will meet the needs of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Centerpoint Storage Master Plan and has the potential to connect to the future Centerpoint PDD development if needed. So this master plan was prepared in accordance with Article 8:1.10 of the Jasper County zoning ordinance. I have outlined that in the staff report, and there's discussion as to where each of these requirements could be found in the document. I'm happy to go through each one of them, but I also know you can read this for yourself, and if you want me to pull up the master plan map, I'm happy to do that. Here to answer any questions you might have, and also the applicants with us. Connor Blaney is with Ward Edwards. He's the engineer who worked on this submittal. And I already forgot your name. Sorry, Tyler first with Capital Storage. Did I say Citadel? Sorry, Citadel Storage. Close.
So if they wish, they can come up and give us a overview of what they.
Good evening, y'all.
Good afternoon.
Lisa, thank you for the introduction. Connor Blaney with Ward Edwards Engineering. As Lisa stated, I'm part of the civil engineering team behind this project. And Tyler here representing the developer here as well. Should you have any questions related to the programming or operations, I'll defer to Tyler. Otherwise, we're excited for this plan, excited to be here tonight. What was presented 2 years ago, the developer carved out a parcel of land within the Centerpoint PDD, proposed a storage facility. That is currently under construction. It's well underway, it's looking great, and now they're looking to develop the remaining portion of this parcel. So this will be a full build out, still conforming to the overseeing Centerpoint PDD, similar uses and proposed building styles as the Phase 1 currently under construction.
Okay, Mr. Lee, you have the opportunity. Question for the applicant or Ms. Wagner?
So, I mean, I can see from, looks like this location is right there, I guess, across from Old Fuel Muse, kind of the boathouse and all. And it looks to have like a pond of some sort on the property. Is that natural wetland? Is that something that's been dug there, or?
So there's two features in the red portion of what's currently pulled up on the screen. That's the current Phase 1 under construction. In the top left corner of the red is a proposed wet detention pond that's currently being excavated. Going north to that, there's it's in the top left corner of the yellow. There's an existing, what used to be, I believe, a borrow pit. Under the original PDD, that was recorded as not jurisdictional wetlands. What we're looking to do as part of this development is almost connect the Phase 1 pond to that to create one larger stormwater pond to treat the entire proposed development in addition to other on-site BMPs.
Okay. That's all I have.
Well, I really had a hard time with this, I'll be honest with you, because there was not, to me, there was not enough discussion of all of these maps that we got, and trying to decipher it as somebody that's not a professional was really difficult. I was concerned, some of the things that just popped up, agency reports were not included because they're too overworked. Is that common, and is that anticipated? Did we allow that?
These days, that's common. really suffering with employees and.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but in terms of permitting this, can we move ahead without specific DHEC permits or comments from them?
So for them to build any of that, they have to apply for a major site plan submittal, get their development plan approved, and that permit is not issued until we have everything that we need from all the other agency permits. I think when they come for a master plan, they can do all they can to ask for approvals from these agencies. It's kind of hard to hold them up when they struggle getting those, but they will not receive any permits to move forward for construction without. That's part of the checklist for the site plan approval. So that's a requirement, and they'll have all of that before it's permitted.
But we're asked to approve it before we get the documents and the input from these agencies. They're like South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, the Office of Ocean and Coastal Resource Management. I don't know, do we
So we've approved phase 1.
right.
And so this is phase 2. It's the 15-acre tract. Part of it is just like the DOT. I don't think y'all submitted the encroachment permit, but yet they had the encroachment permit because the road is under construction. So, you know,
So
you can hold it up if you want to, but no, it's not necessary for you.
So did we didn't hold up phase 1 for these reports, and we never got
No,
them?
and I think we did have them.
We
But
did have
again,
them
we're
for
in
that
a little
part.
bit different climate, yes.
For that part?
Yes.
But we don't have them now, but they are required.
Yes.
But you're asking us to approve it without them, even though they're required.
They're required in order to move forward for construction. So again, they will not receive a land development permit without having all of that in hand.
Can I answer? In other words, those report is more or less for the DSR when y'all give them the rubber stamp to move forward.
Yes,
We are looking at the master plan approval. Construction, any of that can't take place until the checklist that the DSR look at have everything in place.
So you don't think it's important for us to have it? Is that what you're saying? I just want to be clear.
Now, just for the master plan, when they submit the application to do the physical construction work, the checklist the DSR have, they have to have this, unless they can't move forward.
Okay, so there's nothing in there that would affect our decision, is what you're saying?
Right, because I mean, even what we approve is gonna go before county council before
Right,
they.
I understand, we're just
Yeah.
recommending,
Yeah.
but, will it be in hand before it goes to county council?
So this actually doesn't go to county council.
It's master
So
plan.
the staff, when we received a master plan, we look at the PDD document that was approved in 2008. We make sure that it lines up with the concept plan that was approved in the PDD and that those standards are met. So along the way, since 2008, they have gotten approvals from Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority, from DHEC. I mean, basically everybody's in the loop and knows that this development has been given certain density rights and certain approvals, but that doesn't mean they can go construct without the permits that are required from other agencies.
Okay. The other thing, and I looked over the traffic study information that you provided, and again, if you could maybe speak to that a little bit. But before you do, this is not included in the moratorium area, obviously?
This is included in the moratorium area, but it's in a PDD that was approved in 2008, and there's development rights, so it's not covered in the moratorium. There were the few exemptions, and this is one of those.
Okay. Did those people that have been so vocal about their area being developed, did they have anything to say about this?
I'm not sure, it wasn't required to go out for public
Yeah.
hearing.
They're pretty on top of things. I
Yeah.
thought maybe they might have anyway. But, yeah, okay, I just wondered about that part of it.
Yeah,
Could you
and the
speak to
traffic
thing?
impact analysis, yeah, I'll let him speak to that,
Okay.
but it was updated, so.
Okay.
Yes, the traffic impact analysis was provided as part of Phase 1.
Mhm.
Since then, we provided one specific to this, incorporating both the Phase 1 and this proposed full build-out and the trips generated. The traffic engineer, I understand that full traffic impact analysis report, it gets very technical, it's a lot of pages. In a quick summary, essentially what it states is the amount of trips generated by the proposed development does not warrant any turn lane or changes or modifications within the Highway 170 right-of-way. However, the traffic engineer did recommend a left-hand turn lane such that if you're waiting to turn in, you're not waiting in traffic. The existing Highway 170 currently already has a median that's striped and wide enough to accommodate that turn lane, and the traffic engineer recommended, instead of restriping it, to keep it as it's currently painted, such that it can operate as a two-way turn lane. So we don't want to jeopardize the adjacent access, Camp St. Mary's Road. For them to be able to turn left, they have a stop approach such that they only have to wait for oncoming traffic coming one way, they have relief to stop, and then they can pull out left. So that's what the traffic engineer has recommended, that's what this plan adheres to, and that's what was submitted to SCDOT.
Okay, it seems like when you get to the next phase of your development, there will be more recommendations, is that right?
There likely would. With the traffic engineer, when they look at this, there's a certain set of standards that triggers recommendations and requirements.
Okay.
As future development occurs, especially in this PDD, eventually that road that stops at the property line, that's aligns with the original PDD such that future interconnectivity could be made there. At that time and at the time of future development, there could be a traffic signal, there could be other recommendations, but what's currently proposed, that wasn't recommended.
Okay, and this may have been part of something earlier, but was there a discussion of any movement of water on this property that might affect some of the, areas of concern? Because there's not, when it says where applicable, survey lines delineate wetlands. I mean,
Yes.
is that in some of
These are
this?
just like delineated wetlands, but they probably show up better on other sheets, and they have this this year's stormwater, and he was stating that this borrow pit that's here, they want to incorporate a larger detention area for this phase 2 as a part of that.
Okay, and under where it talks about wetlands, see the location, dimension, descriptions, and flow of existing water courses. It just refers you to another plan, and I just wondered about, that's really what I was asking about, the flow of water here. It's 7C, no, 7E, I'm sorry.
What number did you say?
7E. You
Yes,
see.
okay.
On this, I'm sorry, Lisa, it's 7E on your staff report. I'm sorry. Where you outline each, and tell us where to go to, it just says, see overall master plan site and phasing exhibits, tab 6. And there's this big map. And I just wondered if there was an easy way you could say, address the flow of existing water courses here.
I'm sorry, anyway, I can say what now?
Well, on your staff report, if you look at 7E,
Yes.
where it refers you to phasing exhibits, I just wanted somebody to maybe give me just a little bit of information about the flow of existing water courses. I was just wondering if this plan in any way impeded the flow of water that would be objectionable or might increase it in some way. I just wondered.
Okay, and actually, I think the topo map would probably be best, right?
Yeah.
Which is just going to be right
Then you said earlier you was gonna expand that, retention pond where it would take care of both projects, the runoff.
Yes, what we plan to do is provide additional detention that meets both the local and state stormwater requirements, such that the runoff from the proposed development will be discharged at a rate less than or equal to existing conditions. Existing conditions is undeveloped. So the stormwater will be collected, treated, and then slowly discharged such that there's not an adverse impact to the surrounding area.
And that's a requirement by DEC.
It is, so that would be in
Yeah, you
the,
can't increase the collection of water here. You can't increase any extra stormwater. It has to be where it was pre-development, or less than, so.
so this, him building these buildings on this property is not gonna displace water, and send it somewhere else. You have a plan for that, and if that's what you're saying, basically?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, that's kind of what I was wanting to know. Okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. Peavy.
Dr. Lawson,
I didn't have any. Nothing.
Mr. Jenkins?
Did I understood you say there's some construction going on out there now, something about construction?
There is, if you want to go back to the red and yellow exhibit, this is proposed phase 2. Proposed phase 1 came in front of this planning commission, I believe 2 years ago. That's currently under construction. After it went through planning commission, we went through the full staff and all the other site permitting aspects. What's highlighted red on the screen is what's currently under construction. What's highlighted in yellow is what's being proposed to be added as a full build out to phase 1.
Or these storage, that's under construction now?
Yeah, similar use. It's all, phase 1 is under construction as storage units.
Mr. Chairman, my second question is, Lisa, I just know, somebody just left for us a minute ago, 200 and some acres of project. I don't know how big this project is, but is archaeological studies required?
Is what now?
Archaeological study, is that required? Because, where our head,
So this is 15.5 acres.
Right.
The red area is under construction already. That's phase 1. So back in 2008, whenever this original, all of those things were done. But as part of their DHEC permitting, is it the CZC that does the check from,
Yeah, they do an archaeological GIS system.
so they look at whatever's on file as far as any archaeological information that's been reported. And part of that permit that they give you states if you were to unearth anything while you're constructing, you're supposed to report it to them. So,
was that required with the last project that left for us?
yes, he went through that.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, my question's probably more Lisa than Mr. Blaney would be, with regards to, we got 4 buildings defined, the front one being primarily retail professional office, so its parking requirements are 1 per 350. The other buildings' parking requirements are being based on 1 per 1,000. And then you'll see a note that says we're assuming 20% plus or minus for the larger warehouse buildings or office. Obviously, there's a much fewer parking requirement for those spaces, but what is driving, I mean, is there something in the PDD that limits the office space to 20% of that tenant build? I'm assuming these will be white boxed and build to suit, or
I believe that's market driven, am I right about that? It's just market driven based on assumptions, right?
so how does the county, I mean, I'm an architect, so we do these type of work all the time. Parking's a disaster. What drives, and how can we, with good faith, approve a plan that's based on 20% when we don't actually know what the use of that building is going to be?
So when they come in for their development permit to construct this, even them, just the infrastructure, just talking from the civil site at this moment, hopefully at that point they know what's going in there, but there's times they don't, and they build flex space. And then we have to keep up and put notes in these permit files, because what we're doing in that situation is we're just giving them a permit for a shell.
That's right.
They're required to come in and get upfits. And then we have to, and you know, a lot of them will go ahead and maybe put the majority of the parking in. They'll account for that. We have one in Hardyville. It is a little bit of pain because in the beginning you don't really have to worry, but you need to know how many square feet was permitted for this use and how many for this use and this use.
that would be.
And as you get toward the ends, when you might see you need some more parking.
No, I mean, that would be my concern is, and my question is, what is driving the 20%? And if we're going to establish a number like that, my personal opinion and professional opinion is we need to make sure that that number is based off of something either enforceable or not, whether it's the PDD standards. Like, it'd be easy to say, oh, the PDD says you can't have more than 20% of that building as office, otherwise we add parking.
Well, the PDD doesn't state that, and even we had a site down in Hardyville that isn't even part of a PDD. It's just a single lot commercial. They were doing the same thing, the warehouse and office. They hope to have contractors space for the office and the rest of the building as storage, where they can store the things they need every day in a building, but they haven't even permitted yet. So when they come in for their permits, either they know the use or they're doing a flex space. And a flex space, you have to come in and upfit it. So then it's our job to keep notes in that permit file on how that parking, how that use was permitted, how many parking spaces. You know, we have to keep up with that.
Yeah.
They might be able to address that a little bit better.
I can add something. Good evening, Tyler Burris. I manage a storage facility, so I have a little bit better insight on the operations side of things. Connor handles all the other stuff. So as far as the uses go, we typically like to do small businesses. We have a similar kind of layout, a little different, but in Palmetto Bluff. And we always strategically try to place people where the parking makes sense. You know, we always look for people that are local businesses, you know, contractors, subcontractors, low traffic generating uses, and we try to, like I said, strategically place those in the correct buildings and do that.
Okay. Last question would be, so building A is primarily retail professional. Building B and C are warehouse storage. There is a substantial loading dock area, which, you know, makes a lot of sense for the potential uses of that building. Building D is also listed as primarily storage warehouse space. Has there been any thought of potential, you know, loading ingress or egress out of that building for it to be classified as warehouse or industrial use versus office?
Great question. We are overparked on that one, so we have a little bit of flexibility should we need to accommodate that there. I think as these uses and the plan is refined, I think there's a little bit of flexibility where if we needed to add a loading bay, I think we could do that within this site layout and land plan.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments from any other commission? Just on the parking, do you sort of do an overkill in case if you have to change the use for what you anticipate individuals will be using those stores?
We are exceeding the minimums, and we wanted to be sure to do that, but we also are locked in on space. And so if if for whatever reason there was a change in direction on the use that would require more parking, there's not enough room for it, so we couldn't do it in the first place. So we're kind of backed into a program that works with the developer, and when we came up with the 20% office space, that was with discussions with the developer on, this is about the square footage, and this is about where we'd be looking at the actual tenant subdividing building lines. And when we did that math, it was under 20%, so we wanted to go ahead and assume on the large end up to 20%. And then when we work with staff on the final engineering plans, we'll know what our max cap is and be underneath that.
Okay, thank you. I'm ready to entertain a motion. What says Commissioners?
That's the master plan center point storage phase 2, right?
It is.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Commissioner Jenkins, offer a motion that we approve the master plan center point storage phase 2. Motion of 081003040. That's the tax map.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion second by Mr. Robertson that we approve master plan for master plan center point storage phase 2. Ready for question? All in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposes by the same sign. Hearing none, the motion approved unanimously. The next thing on the agenda is the major subdivision approval of Arden Landing.
Applicant Argent Construction and Development LLC is seeking a final plat approval of a previously approved major subdivision formerly known as Cypress Harbor Phase 1 and now known as Argent Landing. This is an unusual and unique situation given the fact that the subdivision was granted final approval by the Jasper County Planning Commission in March 2000. The subdivision plat was filed at the Register of Deeds office on April 4, 2000, at which time all the site infrastructure, the roads, water, and sewer were installed and constructed. The subdivision plat consisted of 33 lots. There were 4 lots, over a period of time, there were 4 lots that were developed with a single-family residence, and at some point, the original developers lost the property to the bank, the subdivision sat dormant, and Argent Construction and Development, they purchased the subdivision in 2010, and they combined the undeveloped lots for tax purposes without realizing that they were eliminating those other lots of records. Since the recording of the plat in 2000, Jasper County adopted a new zoning ordinance on November 13, 2007, which changed the setbacks and the established requirements from a half acre to 0.48 acres for lots 3, 5, and 27. They reduced the minimum lot size requirement from a half acre to 0.46 for lot 25. Reduced the minimum lot size from a half acre to 0.45 for lots 2 and 28. Lots 6, 8, 10, and 11 were reduced to 0.41 acres. Lots 15, 16, 17, and 26 were reduced to 0.39 acres. Lots 18 and 19 to 0.38 acres. Lots 12 and 14 were reduced to .37 acres. Lot 30 reduced to .35 acres, and lot 32 was reduced to .34 acres. And then the rear yard setbacks were reduced from 25 feet to 15 feet for lots 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 14, 16, and 18. The front yard setbacks were reduced from 25 to 20 feet for lots 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 19. And the side yard setbacks from the roadside of that's Planter's Court, was reduced from 25 feet to 20 feet for lot 18. And on the Harbor Drive side yard setback for lot 20, it was reduced from 25 to 20 feet. So the applicant seeks to re-record the existing plat that had originally been approved in 2000. There's no proposed changes to the plat except for lot 7, which was, lot 7 has been sold since this time when the lots were put back together. The road was there. I didn't realize, I stamped the plat, I didn't realize that there was no intention, that there was not an intention. I thought they meant to combine the lots. So lot 7 met the requirements for that plat approval. That was approved. The intention was for the remainder of lot 7 that's shown on the plat to go into lot 9, making lot 9 larger. So other than that, there are no other changes. I tried to draw that in. If you saw, I don't do the best drawing, but I was just trying to illustrate basically what is out there. So despite the GIS data and the plat, which shows the undeveloped lots as one parcel of land on the ground, if you go out there to that subdivision, there's a sign at the entrance that says Argent Land, and there's roads. When you ride through, you can see clearly that each lot, you know, there's the utility boxes are out there, survey markers. So it's certainly in person, you can tell that it's a subdivision. And I made maps based off of Google Earth. So I did screenshots and I attached that to your staff report. Staff recommends approving Argent Land and subdivision as shown on the sketch where I drawed in the lot 7 and lot 9, but we're recommending that it's basically a conditional approval that will require a revised plat to be submitted that Chairman Pinckney will sign off on.
Representative is present.
Sir, I'm sorry.
As the representative is present.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Tom Johnson and Daryl Johnson are the applicants.
Thank y'all for hearing us. As was said, we're not asking to change anything. We're just asking to re-permit something that staff has determined that lost its status, I guess you would say. This is a fully built subdivision, just like Palmer Acres or Patrician Acres or a number of other subdivisions. All the infrastructure is in, so it'd certainly be a nightmare to try to, change that. The underground, the pavement, all of that is there. It was approved by this body, not necessarily the same people, but this body one time already. Along the Puresburg Road, there's a berm, so at the risk of being trying to be humorous, it meets the setback as long as you count the 10 feet upward. It was a well thought out community that fell victim first to a dispute among the original developers and then to the economy. And so we're just asking you to please reinstate what this same body did 20 years ago, and I would greatly appreciate it. Darrell has a whole lot of knowledge about this, and if anybody has any questions of a technical nature or a physical nature, we don't have all the knowledge, but we somehow ended up with a box of documents that tell us various things about the water and the sewer and the tap-ins. Actually, a number of these lots are tapped in. So please ask any questions you might have.
And one thing I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Part of the BZA, the variance that they issued, they did, and it was included in the order of appeal, wanted to make sure that deed restrictions, right now all the undeveloped parcels are in one tax map number. So Mr. Johnson agreed to put in a deed restriction for those parcels that there could be no manufactured housing, because in the beginning that was the intent, not to have manufactured homes, mobile homes. And you know, I think there's a house on lot 13, a house on lot 33, and 21 and 23 and lot 7. And you know, so they want to make sure there would be no manufactured home on those properties. So that was part of the approval of the BZA.
Dr. Butler?
Hi, I do have some questions. Lisa, first for you. With this plat approval, if we approve it as you recommend, what is the next step moving forward in developing the subdivision? In regard to what the Planning Commission will have input to, that's what I'm concerned about. What is the next step? I mean, are we done? If we approve this, that's it?
Essentially, you are for these 33 lots. This was phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is all the approval that was ever given out there. I'll just go ahead and show you this. At the time that this was given, you know, we've always required someone to provide open space for the communities. For some reason, this here over here is shown right here. But there was no approval given there. Let's say someone comes in and buys it and they want to approve that. They have to come back to they want to develop that area. They have to come back to the Planning Commission. That road doesn't exist. Again, just these 33 lots.
But
so
that's what I'm talking about, is these 33 lots.
Yeah.
To move forward with these 33 lots, we have no further input into the things that are of concern to us.
So it
in
is
2024.
So I mean, basically they're before you tonight because although there had been an approval and there is infrastructure here and utilities here, staff cannot approve this plat, you know, once it's revised to show to 7 and 9. Staff can't approve it because it's a major subdivision. So that comes to the Planning Commission. You've probably never seen a situation like this. I mean, I would say that the land development regulations allows the Planning Commission, when it comes to a subdivision, to require any additional things that they feel is necessary to protect the community, you know, which is part of why there was the ask for the deed restriction with the mobile homes.
I understand that,
Yeah.
and that is my question. I don't know what Mr. Johnson and his son's plan is for this property. I'm trying to get to, if they take it themselves and develop it, then they're done. We don't have any further input, or if they sell it to this gentleman and he takes it, then we don't have any further. I mean, there are things that are important in 2024. The area's changed significantly that aren't addressed
Sure,
here,
so-
that I would like to have an opportunity to have input in.
Sure.
Not to say, we're going to direct that, but I'm asking, is today closing the book on that if we approve this?
Well, you would, but you just have one lot. I mean, you could build a house on each lot. 5 lots have a house. 5 lots actually meet the current standards today that didn't need any.
I'm not talking
Variances.
about lot size. I don't have any problem with that. There's some other things that I'm concerned about. That's why I'm asking the question, is this my only opportunity to have input into this? If
If
we
you approve it, yes,
tonight,
we're
this is
asking
it.
for a final
gone.
approval,
Okay.
so.
I'm just like
And we're
having an
asking for it to be
opportunity.
conditional until the plats are revised.
I'm sorry, say that. I was
We're
talking.
asking for a conditional approval until a plat is revised to show this Lot 7 and Lot 9. And of course, we would call Mr. Pinckney to sign that, if it were given a conditional approval.
So bottom
yes.
line is, the answer to my question is, if we approve this, that's the end of it for us. It's turned over and they can develop the subdivision without any further input. That's the answer?
Yeah, but when you say develop the subdivision, I mean, they can't go out and do extra things. They really can only build houses, so.
Well, I mean, that's what you normally do in a subdivision, is build
You do,
houses.
but in this case, they have all their infrastructure in place, so we're not
Understand that.
asking for them to go
I
develop
understand that.
additional.
Okay. I got my question answered, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to talk to Mr. Johnson and son, because I'm very invested in Purisburg.
Sure.
The whole world knows. I love it. But the world has changed a lot since 2000, and particularly in our area. And one of the things that, if you were coming here for the first time, one of the things I would say, and I'll say it to you because I think it's important, is road maintenance. There was a big pothole in that subdivision. When I went out, Thornton and I used to pick up trash there all the time, up and down that road, and there was a huge pothole there that the people living in those homes couldn't get anybody to do anything about. So we would now ask the developers to have a road maintenance agreement that was eventually turned over to the homeowners, but that provided some security for the people building in that subdivision, that they could get to their homes without having to drive through potholes. And I think that's important, and I think that's reasonable, and I hope you would consider it.
Sure.
The other thing is, and this has already been addressed by the previous group you met with, the BZ, what is it? BZA, has to do with deed restrictions. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'll be honest with you, it sounds really great after Lisa explained it to me. But going along with that, I live in probably the original subdivision that was made in the 70s in Purisburg.
Certainly.
And we have covenants, and they are terrible because somebody has to enforce them. But they do provide some protection if you buy a piece of property in a subdivision. They do provide some protection. And there are mechanisms in place, and where, the HOA has to grant approval before building permits are issued. So there are things that can be put in place to protect homeowners. We have a very good group of people in our group, but we still have problems. And so I'm happy to know that the deed restriction will take care of one of that. It may be that you want to consider an HOA to turn over to the homeowners after it's all sold, or to have it in place. I'm certainly glad the people back in 1970 thought of that for our little community. I think it's kept it nicer than it would have been otherwise. So that was the other thing. And I'm sorry, I'm just telling you the things that I'm concerned
and I'm
about
listening
and not
carefully.
trying to tell you what to do. Okay, and I talked about the edgeway. The one thing that you may not know if you haven't been out there, I know you used to live in Purisburg.
Yes, ma'am.
And a long time ago, but the traffic out there is awful. And I've said so many times what a blessing it would be if there were sidewalks. And if the developer would put sidewalks for these families to walk on, they would have a place to walk their dog, walk their children, whatever. I know it's probably expensive, but if the developer would look at the benefit to the people that ultimately live in this community, I think it would be a good thing. You can't get out on Purisburg Road and ride a bike. You can't get out and walk. If you do, you take your life in your own hands. And no matter how many times it's reported to the sheriff's office, we constantly have a problem with speeders out there. So it gives children a place to play. And that's the final thing I want to say is in developments where there are small lots and where there are not options for children to get out and play, it's always a good idea to have a designated spot. It doesn't have to be big, a small playground where children can go play. Particularly if there's not, I can't visualize how big these lots are going to be. That's not something I can do. But hopefully, whoever ends up with this property, they would consider just a small place for kids to safely play in their community. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for
insight,
listening.
And we'll see what we can.
One thing on the road portion of it, just as far as, or the main road going in is actually, difficulty there is, it's actually public. And we were, because of the landings at the end.
You talk, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, when you turn in where we had the potholes and all, all of that unfortunately is public, and I could not stop. The log trucks were actually using that. They were turning in and taking lunch breaks in there.
You know, I called about that because I used to do a lot of calling and things, but I don't think they know it's not. I don't think the county knows that they're supposed to be maintaining that road because I talked to them. They said they're responsible for the dirt portion back to Myers Lake. That's all they're responsible for. So they told me, now you know you could call tomorrow and get a different answer, that the paved part is a privately owned piece of road. So I don't know.
It's very confusing in that situation.
I agree with
them
that.
from using it, but yet the county says we should maintain it.
I know, I agree with that. I do agree.
Yeah, the county didn't build the paved road portion, and it's not in the road maintenance system. That's just all I can say about that.
Well, they had told me that in the
I don't think the county really has
past.
equipment to maintain paved roads.
I don't know how they can maintain the dirt roads without getting through your paved road, but anyway, I don't know. Which brings up another issue, which may not be an issue at all, and maybe not the time to bring it up, but I will anyway, is the fact that there is Myers Lake back there, and that is an access road, and I don't know how that's managed. I guess I'll leave that to you folks to figure out.
It's, frankly, the homeowners, I think, get out and try to shame people into behaving, and then occasionally, I think DNR sometimes comes if somebody's called, but I guess this falls under the category of small world, but back in, 2000, when they were building it, there was a plan to make it a gated community, and at the instructions of county council, I don't think it went as far as a lawsuit, but it may have, but the county intervened and established that Myers Lake was a public landing, and they could not gate the access to it. Now, whether they, I think they had already perhaps done the pavement by the time that became an issue, but I remember that controversy and that the county prevailed and that was a public road.
So the whole thing is.
I'm not saying, I'm talking about legalities, not responsibility for pavement.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe the pavement had already happened, but my memory's not that good. I just remember there was an issue in the community and the county insisted on preserving that as access for historical public landing.
I seem to remember that myself, but they would not come out and address, like you said, they would not. They refused.
Mr. Johnson, did Ms. Cole, who was sent in the comments to the BCA, now I might be misunderstood her, but I thought she said that her father had put the Myers Lake and everything to the north of this in conservation. Am I wrong about that? When I looked it up, it runs along the road and everything to the north of the road up to Myers Lake and all of that is in a conservation.
I didn't see that comment and I don't know that name. I assume she must be the daughter of Albert Epstein.
Lot 33.
Yeah, it's Herb's, it's actually Herb's daughter, the Charlotte Captain. He just owns the lot 33. He had no ownership.
Oh, okay.
Herbert, lot number 33.
Okay,
I forget his last name. I was just
Yeah, she said she inherited from her father and that before that he had put everything along that road. He acquired a bunch of that land to the north and put it in conservation.
I think he kind of,
but that was Epstein though.
I think he was trying to take credit for persuading Mr. Epstein, but it was the vast majority of that tract, including the little island across Myers Lake, was belonged to the same entity and that went bankrupt. I think there was a succession of bankruptcies and foreclosures, but whatever the case, Mr. Epstein bought the entirety of what they owned and came to us and sold us the developed part that he had no interest in. And then he had it up for sale for a long, long time. And then I think it was after he died, his trust sold it to the Nature Conservancy, who then sold it to the DNR, is my understanding.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So my question is, is the Myers Lake in the conservation?
Only, well, I think the lake was already public, but there's an island or a peninsula across the water from the landing.
So when I identified it on the county records, if you follow the road in there, the dirt portion, everything to the right-hand side, the north boundary.
I think that's
And
correct.
the island all showed up in conservation.
Yes, yes.
Does that mean that the public can't access it? Is that what you're saying?
Usually, like, they'll turn that over they'll find someone to manage it, like DNR. And, you know, they acquired that Slater track and it's gonna be open for the public to use. But usually that kind of changes the maintenance of that portion.
Yeah.
Like that part of the road, I would think would be maintained by them.
Is it on the GIS map that we can see that? I don't want to see it
Yeah,
now.
I
I
just
can
need
look
to-
later.
Let's see, I gotta figure out how to get.
I pulled it up
the,
on Google Maps right here. I was looking at it from the maps and you
Does
can,
it show it?
yeah, you can even see the logging roads that
Got it,
run through the
Lisa.
back that he was talking about,
Lisa.
up to the lake.
Lisa,
And then this is the island they're talking about right here. on the other side of my alley.
What, is that the property, is that the state, no, what is that?
That's the state line.
Oh,
Yep, that's the
wow.
Savannah River there. And then this is the actual development right here, this T shape.
Okay.
And then that's proposed lot 7 here.
Okay. But it doesn't show the,
Yeah.
section.
So he said this was actual landing.
Yeah.
You said it was an actual landing to Myers Lake, because I could see here
It's the
on this map, there's the logging road, and it goes back to the map.
Right.
You know, and that's an actual landing there, is what you're saying.
It's a dirt clearing
Yeah.
that you can.
Yeah.
Canoe or, yeah.
Kayak or a bateau in, but
It's,
it doesn't have a ramp, you can't. back
Right, no
up.
boat trailer. Yes, sir.
no, well, you could put a flat boat.
Little John boat.
Yeah, you
You go,
could put a
go
John
brim
boat.
fishing? Right?
That would be it. Thank you, Mr. Piggy, that's it. That's all.
Lisa,
Yeah, I'm getting it.
let's hear it. He got it. Johnson, make sure that Lisa.
Dr. Boss, your comment?
Lisa, I have a question. I know they went to the BZA to look at these and a couple of lots that were non-conforming. And I know we just did a major subdivision down in Wagon Branch recently, and we asked about certain requirements. If this was coming to us today for the first time, what would make this non-conforming?
Well, all the lot sizes would need to be a half acre because it's own residential. The interior road setbacks would be 25 feet.
We required sidewalks and all that for the. I
You
think it was 12 units down.
you can require sidewalks. Again, I said it earlier tonight, and I'll say it again. With the land development regulation gives you latitude to ask for anything additional that you feel is needed to safeguard the community.
That's really my question. Why didn't this come to us rather than just going to the Board of Zoning Review? Why did it
Because we
come to us
couldn't
first?
ask you to approve lots that were under a half acre in size. Some of these
But
lots
you
were,
asking us to approve a major subdivision,
that already has all the infrastructure in.
but it's non-conforming.
That's why they went to the BZA.
See, I was just thinking it would come to us, for us to do some of these things and ask some of these
But-
questions.
but
If
you-
they didn't like what we come up with, then they would go to the Board of Zoning.
Well, no,
Review.
you can't reduce the lot sizes. You have to make sure that they are in check with the residential zoning district.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to go to the BZA. We can't ask you, put you in a position to approve lots that are .34 and .39 and .45. So,
But if we were to change some of the roads and some of the sidewalks, that would change lot sizes. Will it not?
if you were to change that,
What I'm saying.
but do you know what so then, I mean, let's be for
It would
real,
be
they
like
could come
a
in
new
and ask for a PDD if they're going to go through all
It would
that.
be
They
like
could
a
ask
new-
for more
it would be like a
density.
new subdivision that we're looking at.
What's that?
It would be like we're looking at a new subdivision rather than one we're looking at.
Yeah, and I mean, so there's infrastructure, it would all have to be tore out. You've got 5 houses out there now, you know, I don't know, how do you change all the infrastructure but leave just 5 houses in place?
I understand.
So, you know, that was the direction from the Jasper County Attorney, to go, that the proper way to handle this was to go to the BZA because we couldn't ask Planning Commission to approve things that, without the variance, we couldn't ask you to approve lot sizes that don't
Yeah,
meet the
I just,
residential
you know,
zoning
I just
district.
feel a little bad. The gentleman had the 12 units down at Wagon Branch. We asked him to do this and we asked him to do that.
But he didn't have any infrastructure in. He hadn't sunk a bunch of money into the property.
Previously approved.
Right.
2,000.
I have a question. Dr. Butler mentioned in a couple things that we always ask for.
Sure.
It doesn't show any open space for recreation. And she also mentioned that it would have been nice if it was sidewalk on one side of the street if we ask for that tonight, then all his lots would have to be changed because they're already reduced to a size that doesn't meet the standard.
They would.
And practically, it's hard to say you approving a subdivision with no open space, and they got the streets to get from point A to point B. They have to walk in the street, and there's not sidewalk.
So Chairman, I noticed on this map, it shows common areas on the back sides plus these ponds here. I'm assuming in 2000, probably 25 years ago, there may have not been trees there at the time. There's probably trees that hadn't been on the property. But from showing what Google Maps shows, there are trees there now. I live in a similar community, Augusta Heights. We have common areas. And we as a community, we maintain them. We kind of take turns keeping up with it. And we have a lot of children in our neighborhood and couples and stuff. And everybody will go out and walk their dogs, and we utilize our common areas a lot. We have a little pond as well that we fish out of and stock fish, and everybody kind of comes and uses that area. To kind of go off of your question, if they were to utilize that common area or were to set up something for the youth or the people of the community to be able to use them, my biggest concern, the issue we're running into at Augusta Heights, is we don't have access to our common area because they stack lots so tight. So showing lot 7 appears to have a driveway, and I was wondering, is this going to be a driveway or is this going to be an actual road? And if this is a road, would it grant access to the common area for the people of the community?
So lot 7, that is a driveway. It exists already. There's a house there. And one of the comments, he's sent in a comment for the BZA, and he says there's walking paths around these ponds, and he wanted to be kind of to the back where he was closer to the river, and he wanted to make sure he wasn't going to lose his walking path around the pond. So
Right.
I can't say I went back there to look at the pond and a walking path, but that was his concern. And of course, mobile homes, nobody wanted mobile homes there.
It doesn't show on this map.
So
I see, but what I'm wondering, is that upland or that's a part of that?
It is. It is. Wetlands are here. Wetlands here.
There's a, I guess you'd call it swale or sluice. There's a hill, and then there's about the width of this room, there's okay, Darryl can show you, if you saw it when you thought, he can show you the,
This is one I'm holding on to for dear life. This is the only one that exists. In our situation. So it actually will show you this with the wetlands.
Where is it? Turn it back. Okay, you can tell, this is,
Wetlands. Isolated wetland, that's the retention pond. Lot 7 is here.
This is the river in Myers Lake, so
Yeah,
where you guys would walk down to the landing would be somewhere right in my finger.
Okay, so this would be your access to go to these common areas and these retention ponds, right, through this
yeah,
road?
there's, the retention pond is over here.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
over there.
It's-
The road goes between them.
I've got an as-built that shows, I don't know why they have that pond on that particular map.
Access to this common area would be isolated by the driveway at that point.
And this is actually a public road right here, so anybody can access that portion.
Is that the dirt road that goes to
Yes.
Myers Lake there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Our property line is right on.
Oh, okay.
That's still not in line, open space.
This is another one that may help you. This is an actual as-built with the pond that she was speaking of. Because that conceptual round pond is on all of these, but that's not actually what's there.
because part is just asking us to do a conditional approval for a new, plat to just show everything. So that-
This is wetlands. I think this must have been before the retention ponds were built or something.
Yes, I agree. I
This
think
is
so.
early, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
Well, look at the shape. It actually looks similar, just the shape.
Oh, it sure does.
So, that's current. That's the wetlands that were over to the right, but it showed another retention pond up here, I thought.
There are two ponds there, aren't there? There are two ponds there.
They are, it's different, interesting, somebody, we did buy the proper amount of fish and stock of.
Good.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that.
There are a number of people that don't live in the community that discovered that, but,
I will.
I don't know if it's worth showing you, but for some reason there were two on there somewhere along the way that was altered the asphalt in the secondary tier of the drainage.
Right.
It does not look anything like that.
No, it's more,
Well,
it's not even the
looks
same
exactly
shape,
like
but
what's on that map.
that's right.
And not much larger than your chamber there on the second one. Where did they
Boy, that's 7, right? It's on 7.
Right.
It's really out there.
Well, that's what I'm saying, when, this would isolate that common area. I mean, it'd be private property on all sides, so pretty much he would acquire the common area essentially, besides the people back here, their backyard.
Have to show that access through.
That's a move.
You want to scroll it?
I don't think we can move it anyway. We don't.
Should've brought my iPad in here.
Lakeside Drive in Flanders Court. So, but right here, right there, is dirt, it's dirt all the way back.
All the way to here. Check that out one day. I've seen it from the outside. I've never been actually in there.
Oh, we used to ride up in there all the time.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I was asking questions of Mr. Johnson.
Chairman had questions. I kind of interjected on the chairman's question.
I don't really have chicken pot pie can give you indigestion.
We can get back to the discussion. Mr. Lee, your comments or questions you have?
No, sir, I don't have any at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins?
This project has already been approved, right?
Previously.
Previously.
Previously, the plat was approved and recorded in the year of 2000, and all the infrastructure was put in place prior to the plat being recorded. The plat didn't get approved till after all the infrastructure was put in. But all the lots, the undeveloped lots got combined.
So now.
So now,
what you asking for is conditional approval, not approval of a major
well,
subdivision?
so now they'd like to re-record the plat, but lot 7 changed, lot 9 gets bigger. So that really needs to be revised and updated to reflect what's out there. So what staff recommended was a conditional approval based on them going and revising that plat. And Chairman Pinckney would be the one to sign off on a subdivision plat because he's the chairman. So staff's not going to be signing it, but once it was all revised, we would call him to come in and sign the plat before it could be recorded.
What does conditional mean in this regard?
There's a condition that needs to be met, and that would be the condition that the plat is revised and updated to show what's actually that 7 and 9.
Can we add additional conditions?
You could.
Mr. Robinson?
One question, one statement. Lot 7, in the beginning, when this was approved in 2020, or 2000, I mean, what was the access to that and why was it omitted?
So
The Lakeshore Drive looks like it would be.
this here was lot 7 right here. The lot 7 was sold later in 2013, and at the time, the lots have already been combined. So all you had out there at that time was lot 13, 21, 23, and 33. Everything else was one property. I thought it was supposed to be that way. So when they brought in lot 13, a combination plat, reduced the lots, and it's an exempt plat. They come in with that one, and that's considered a minor subdivision. It was 1.83 acres, something like that, almost a 2-acre lot. The gentleman, he wanted to be back there. That's how he wanted that to be.
It's got a nice.
The road was already there. The road was in place, and there was a sewer tap and water tap.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you want to be part of the subdivision.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to figure out was
Yeah.
what was the draw for lot 7, because it's kind of out there. It's more of a plantation style property
Yeah,
versus a
and that
subdivision.
drawing isn't completely accurate, but I'm trying to give you an
My
idea of what's out there.
statement is in the contingency with, obviously, we can't approve a blue line sketch, but we can approve if that's engineered. The as-built flood zones need to be updated. The Savannah River is one of the few areas, and this is more for Mr. Johnson, which you're probably well aware of. The Savannah River is actually one of the few areas in our region that flood zones got worse.
Yeah.
Even to the effect that City of Hardyville has some 3-foot freeboards with an AE 18. It appears like some of this properties around is in an AE zone, and it's 18.2, 18.4. I don't believe Jasper County has a freeboard.
We have a 2-foot freeboard.
To the extent of
Yes.
3 feet, but 2 feet still significant that, hey, any development on those lots is probably different, significantly different than it would have been in 2000.
That's true.
Just as a precautionary statement. But I would, with the plat, have that survey updated to the current FEMA flood zones.
What is the flood zone?
It's an AE.
AE?
Yes, so even prior to October 2019, it was a unnumbered A zone because there was no detailed study of the Savannah River, but Jasper County, after the maps were adopted in 2019, it was still an unnumbered A zone, and we worked with AECom to do the flood study, and I did look it up at the BZA meet, and I think it is 18 point something, but that flood study assigned base flood elevation. So before we didn't know what the risk was, but today we do. So if they come in and apply for a building permit, they have to comply with.
Yeah, if it's an A18 and their county has a 2-foot freeboard, then the base elevation of your first floor system would have to be 20.
Yeah, your finished floor, your heating and air, your electrical
It has
wall
to be
has
what?
to be
20
2 feet above.
MSL.
On these lots?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what just because it's a.
The
we're assuming
topography
it's
might be
18, it could
17
different.
feet there,
Yeah, it
so-
could be different lot to lot.
Yeah.
So the survey will help dictate that. And
Wow.
usually we start with a plat like this, and once those lots are sold, then somebody will do a as-built tree and topo for that lot, and then that will drive the house.
But the plat doesn't show a road to lot 7 on the plat. How is that?
That's what
So
they-
that's what
Oh,
that's the
I was
condition
thinking-
that
okay,
I was
thank you.
recommending, that does come in.
That's
and
the contingency that we'd be potentially asking for.
That plat's updated to show that,
That you update the plat.
to show that, yes.
I was in the restroom, I'm sorry.
You good?
So it'll be a easement between 5 and 6 to get back to 7.
Actually, that is the driveway for Lot 7. That belongs to Lot 7.
Okay. All right. Are there other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Go ahead.
I have a question. Are any of the things that I mentioned, if we put them on as conditional, does that make your project undoable? I mean, I'm not trying to make it undoable.
Sidewalks, as Mr. Jenkins, I think, pointed out, Mr. Pinky one pointed out that would make the lots even smaller and all that. An open area with a playground could probably be done, and I'm sure that an HOA would be part of something, and so what else did you?
I think that was it. I mean, it was just,
road maintenance agreement, covenants and restrictions, sidewalks, designated as
That was a point where that would be turned over to them regardless, the HOA would be created.
oh, okay.
her say, so.
But, and then the other negative to the sidewalks, we already have all of our water, sewer, power, phone, everything set up. And I'm
Right.
not sure where that would fall in accordance to that, but. it would
Well,
be,
as long as when you get down to the nitty gritty, you consider it, you know, if it's doable, you do, if it's not, you don't. But anyway, that,
That's all. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion on this proposed.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins, offer a motion that we approve the conditional approval with some caveat that they update the plat with all the necessary changes. Secondly, providing he put restriction on those lots that Lisa mentioned. I don't know the lot numbers you mentioned, Lisa.
The deed restrictions,
Right.
the manufacturer.
Right, what was those lot numbers? You named 7 lots.
that's already on there, isn't it?
It's already on there. Okay. And providing they revise the plat and send it back to the chairman to be signed.
There's a motion by Mr. Jenkins that we do a favorable approval of a major subdivision, Ardent Landon, conditional with a new plat, with a homeowners association in place, and possibly open space for kids to play. Do I hear a second?
And sidewalks, if it is feasible, does it need to be put in there?
Well, I mean, we can, but I mean, from what he just explained, with the infrastructure already in,
So leave it off.
The utilities would be inaccessible because they're all underground. There'd be nowhere to dig them up, repair them, or tie in.
No, I just wondered, they're gonna consider it, even a walking path.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right. That's
And,
good.
you mentioned a road maintenance?
road maintenance agreement.
That's in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We need a second.
Second. Sorry.
A motion is second by Dr. Butler. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposers by the same sign? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously.
To clarify that motion, just to make sure we get it right for our records, I think what I heard you say was, of course, the conditional approval based on the plat being revised,
Right.
to show what's out there to 7 and 9.
Right.
Did you say the road maintenance agreement?
Road maintenance agreement.
And I think I
Homeowners
heard you say
Association.
HOA? The HOA or
Yeah,
covenants
You already
or?
have the deed restriction through the BZA, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. But you said
And then
mention-
sidewalks, if they're able?
They're going to consider that, or maybe walking path, whatever they.
Path around the pond maybe, or
Yeah,
something.
whatever they
Yeah.
can
And I
work
think-
out in there.
And I
And what-
believe the other one was update the plat with all the necessary changes.
Yes, that was the first thing she.
Okay.
Right, yeah, big flag.
And
Okay.
Chairman, you said
Make
something
sure-
about somewhere for the children to play, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
They're playing, right.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion's carried unanimously. If you have the approval, we hope you can get this worked out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next thing on the agenda is open discussion.
Am I in order, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Lisa, those last folks that came before us, I believe I had him say the reason why we don't have, a lot of these large subdivisions that's coming in, a lot of reason why we don't have affordable housing, but the county is not working with them to maybe give them some perks or do something to
Well,
get
it's
some
not
affordable.
so much the county, because, you know, we don't get offer water and sewer. He's really referring to the actual cost that's involved. You have to pay for those sewer taps, and really in most places in Jasper County, you have to pay your share to have those sewer lines extended. So that's what he's saying. They need to have somebody work with them to offset.
So what he's saying, if the county give them more perks, they can do more stuff to provide some affordable.
It's the way it always works.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always want more.
I was listening to what he was saying.
But now, there is the SoLoco Regional Housing Trust Authority who, a fund has been established that developers could apply. You have to make application. They're working as a nonprofit. They have an executive director. I know they're considering several applications now. If it's for affordable housing, you can make application, and some of those things could be money to help with your required infrastructure for your sewer and different things, but you also have to have a plan of how much affordable housing that you're going to provide. So,
Nobody's doing that out of the goodness of their heart. They're
You
all
know,
in it to make
What is
money.
affordable housing? What, a money number?
It varies.
well, in
Well,
between
give me a
what all the,
range.
the counties all put, Beaufort County, Hardeeville, Jasper, we all made some contributions. It was $1 million. So then they invest that. So I don't know the exact number, but that's fairly new. It is up
varies
and
on your
running.
Income in another municipality I'm really familiar with in the Florida Keys that we do a lot of affordable housing. Affordable housing in the Florida Keys is $3,200 a month rent. $3,200 a month rent. That's not affordable for any normal, non-working professional.
But let me share something. I was here at the meeting when county had a meeting about developing fees for Jasper County.
Right.
Now, some of the fees that they proposing, it puts a heavy burden on a developer. Now, what I researched some time ago, like in Greenville County, we have to have nurses and hospital workers, we have to have educators. You look at what their income is, and you take a third of what their income, and that'll tell you what they can afford for a house. You have to have houses to accommodate them. Now, subsidized housing, comes in a different category altogether. But if you was an educator, or you a nurse, or you work in a medical facility, and the things that essential to keep a county moving, you do a pool of what their income is, and you take a third of that, and that's what they say they can afford for a house. And Jasper County don't have an inventory of house that can accommodate teachers, nurses, and the essential people. Most all the houses that have been being built is, you have to be in the upper income. And that's something that a county growing like Jasper have to develop, is a working class house. And the average working class house now
you say it's at least $1,500, $1,600 a month. The subsidized housing, you have to look at it because they get subsidized by the state and the federal government. And even through FHA and HUD, they'll build you these houses and they'll fit it to your income.
But you gotta be in an area where it's not everywhere.
Yeah, well, another thing, they didn't mention that meeting, and I didn't say nothing. And Attorney Johnson can tell you this. One of the biggest problems in Jasper County, 35 to 40% of our land is tied up in heirs property, and there's not certified deeds where they can really build. I'm saying this, let's say openly. The county need to work on, and they issue grant for this, is to get our people to get most of the small landowners' property out of heirs property. Because if you're going even through HUD or FHA, they want to clear the bill on it. Everybody can't own one house. And if it's heirs property land, and that's why you see so many manufactured houses, because they don't require that you have to have a certified deed. And that's the reason, another reason why a lot of our young people here don't stay here in the county, because their family got property, but then they go to build a house, they find out they can't get a clear deed. So they say, I forget, move to Columbia, Orangeburg, Greenville, Charlotte. And it's a major problem here in Jasper County. Hampton County faces the same problem as well.
I thought they had a lot of workshops here for folks to get their property out of heirs and into.
Yeah, they got the heirs property foundation. They work hard and they'll do a lot of things for you. But we as the people in a conservative group have to push that and educate our people on that to make those changes. Even a lot of people don't know, they take their hard-earned money and build a house out of their pocket and invest $300,000, $400,000 and don't have a warranty deed. Somebody, I know a couple right now, they bought 10 acres, built a house out of their pocket because he was a carpenter, piece by piece. 4 years wasn't contacted. Now they come back trying to take the whole 10 acres from them. And when they lose it with all the improvements they put on it.
And the Ed's Property Foundation also do will. They come in and do free wills for you. That's important.
But that's a major problem.
Right.
It's fighting language when you're talking about, they want to kill people off, and when you go to really to subdivide it, in the archives now, they find out all who the heirs are. Then families say, I don't want him to have none. But when they have the funeral, they put on daddy obituary, that's his son. But they want to kill him off. But when they go to subdivide that land, his portion is there. It's a major problem. But I mean, some point in some time, that have to be turned around to change Jasper County.
Well, in my opinion, it's going to take the leadership in the black community to do it, because that's the only people that can lead the change there.
But I mean, if we don't talk about it, it'll continue to be a revolving door.
I think you're right, and I think that that's acknowledged through these workshops that are being held, but again, it's the leadership in your community that's got to take the lead. Other people can support it and agree with you, but.
But it's so amazing, you can buy heirs property on sheriff's sale and keep it for a year, and I don't know yet how they get clear deed and title, but they can do it.
Really?
A tax sale deed is not a warranty deed.
Right.
High risk.
That's something I never could understand.
If they failed in one little procedure, the owner can still get that property back.
Forever?
Huh?
I mean, even after a year? Did it matter?
Technicalities.
Absolutely. It stamps on that tax sale deed. You can't get insurance on it, and it's not a warranty deed. The bank is not gonna lend you no money on a tax sale deed.
That's true.
And people that's losing their property, mad.
I mean, they lose it, but when they go through the procedures, if they wanna fight it, they can get it back.
Now, you're not talking about just the Ayers property, you're talking about any property?
Right, if you let your land get sold on the tax sale, and the county failed in one little area,
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense, though. It does.
this after 10
They made a
years,
mistake.
but people still come back after 10 years and say this wasn't done properly. And if you bought that tax sale cheap, you ain't got another $30,000, $40,000 to fight to keep it.
Right.
So I mean,
It's a problem.
yeah.
It's a big problem.
You know, people try this method, say, well, know the tax dude don't pay it, and they go there and bid on it, so you can put it in their name and try to kill off the other family. That's illegal too.
Yeah.
I've stated it from the top.
I was gonna say,
Right.
everybody that stands up and saying, I'm buying this to the family, they may or may not be family.
That's right.
Probably don't. Even if they include others, they might not include those that they don't care for.
That's right. But they'll care for them and they come out the woodwork.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Any other?
Well, I'll just mention again, our training. I mean, are we doing anything? Yeah, excuse me.
We will, but nothing's been set up yet.
Okay,
It used to be
just
in
checking.
May, and now they've moved it to November. We can do it in November with the live streaming from SCAC, the Southern South Carolina Association of County, or we could host one. I could host one anytime.
Okay, I was just gonna ask.
We'll get it done.
Okay.
Before the year's over.
Okay,
But
that's good. Thank you.
One question. I was in a meeting and Jasper County was one of the only counties didn't adopt to be a non-smoke zone. None of the municipalities in the whole county.
What?
Non-smoke. Here in Jasper County, you can smoke on any of the premises. Public or private.
County property,
Yeah.
Oh, in county.
unless you're in a building?
Hampton County have adopt non-smoke zone.
You mean like going and standing outside the door
Yeah.
to smoke?
Non-smoking.
It doesn't matter. If they adopt it, then if you stand outside, you still get secondhand smoke. So,
County property would be
County
non-smoking.
So
in big public places.
would you have to do a designated smoking area at that point to be able to get it far enough away from the mass public, essentially? I mean, it's
I mean, what they're pushing,
still,
what they're pushing now, we say non-smoke zone, there won't be no little cut off the smoke. You only smoke
Go get in your car.
on your private property. You go to the restaurant to
home.
eat,
I don't think-
if it's non-smoke, they can't be in this smoke. Because they said more people die from secondhand smoke than people that smoke.
no
Now,
filter.
that one person smoking a cigarette, but it affect
No filter.
20, 25 other people
On
in
the
that
outside.
area.
Did the county council have to adopt that? Is that where it comes from?
Yes. I was wondering if we could make a recommendation to the council for them to look at it.
That's surprising to me. I mean, you don't go anywhere anymore where people smoke except outside the door. I mean, I don't see people smoking.
I mean, even, see, in this building, I don't see no sign saying no smoking.
I mean, you can smoke.
I wouldn't advise that.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm not sure about how that works.
maybe at the front door. Might have to catch that one at the front door.
Yeah, I mean, I should have brought the material, but
I can pass up a request. I can see the request. I mean, that wouldn't be an ordinance that's covered by zoning, so I think it's a matter of asking the county council if they
Yeah.
can consider adopting it.
So who would be the agency or group that would promote this? Where did it come from, the idea? I mean, if it required adoption, who suggested it? Do you know? The meeting that you were at where it was discussed, did they say where that came from?
Well, they got a agency in Columbia, work with the whole state to, because one of the things, if you're in a county that don't have the smoking, non-smoking zone, your health insurance is high.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Interesting. It's probably DHEC or, I don't know who.
But most of these buildings don't have no firearm signs, no loitering sign, none of these buildings
I
have
think
it.
that
They
with the
have
new law,
firearms,
there
though.
They have fire alarm, but they don't have no
Yeah.
firearm sign, no loitering sign, no smoking
Do you-
sign. I don't see none of these buildings.
it's required to, and if you don't have a specific size sign,
You can-
then
I
you
mean,
That's
I
right.
can promise you, we're not even allowed to have a candle in the building that has fire, so,
Yeah. But I meant there's no sign.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the sign and somebody brings it in, I don't
You
think
can't
they're
enforce the
in
law if
violation.
you don't have a sign. You can't enforce.
But it was amazing when I
Don't
found,
call me, so I don't know.
Right. Well, that's.
it was amazing when I found, if you kind of got it, the whole kind of, when you go to insurance, it's lesser. Insurance companies look at areas, you know, you see you allow smoking everywhere. Health insurance is high.
Did not know. We need to. Of course, I think,
It's interesting.
come on, Medicaid.
But I mean, the material, I'll get it and let you look at it, and, you know, it's just a simple recommendation to council to do that. They may not be aware that we're one of the counties, especially in our area, that is not. It's not.
Participated.
you peeled out right before the third, right in here, is where you walked out.
Is there's anything else?
I only had one real minor thing to Lisa, based on the comment I made to Connor about the industrial warehouse. Somehow we've got to find in our zoning, regulations of how we can clearly define the minimum parking requirements for a white box building, a shell building, that isn't just barely above the minimum. Because an architect firm can come in, take 5,000 square feet, that requires 35 parking spaces. And that's only one portion of the front building.
So our parking standards are based on uses, and I understand a flex space, it's undetermined, but
They should be
so
held
we
accountable
do
to the most
determine those
restrictive.
because we can't reduce the parking, so when you apply for a building permit, we're gonna give you just a shell permit, and then, when you come in to upfit it, we're having to, and we've had to
It's terrible.
take
I mean,
some
I do a lot of
standards
them, and it's
in
terrible.
there.
It's terrible how few parking spaces get in, and then they get overcrowded. But the building code, when there's a conflict in the building code, as an architect, we are held to the highest value, not the lowest value. So in a potential case like that, where you might have mixed-use, industrial warehouse, office space, we should be holding them to office
Well,
space.
he came up with that, I mean, our.
That's what I'm saying.
ordinance-
That was an
yeah, our
arbitrary,
ordinance
the
does-
20% was an arbitrary number that was based on nothing.
Yeah, because they don't know, because it's.
Yeah, I mean, he,
But
Stuttered.
our code will have them determine that. I do like to know it prior to that building permit, it's nice
Yeah.
to know, because, I have to stop and.
Well, and
keep
he
a
even-
record of it, and I have to attach it to those permits.
he even said, like, we can't add parking, there's nowhere to do it. So, yeah, you can eliminate a building.
Right, that's
You
what
know.
they would have to do.
Right.
So really, that comes in the back toward the end, because usually you have enough in the beginning.
And I didn't push it because I know there's other checks and balances for that in the future, beyond the master plan, which is why I still approved it.
Yeah.
But,
And then if all their retail space doesn't get used as retail space, that does open up parking.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to
we should catch it at the planning commission level or at that development stage, because I have a project in Hardyville that was sold based on a plan that's not even approvable.
So, I think if we're put in that situation, they are basically going to have to say, okay, this is how we're gonna use the building. And then, if it changes, it's still how do you catch it,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I mean, I think the key is, man, is there some way we can enforce, say, something in between? Is it the most restrictive instead of the least restrictive? Or, in his case, he's using the 20%. That should really be in the PDD that, hey, if you're gonna use 20%, then there is no tenant space allowed to be more than 20% office.
So when he comes in for building permits, we won't be using 20% because that's
Yeah, but he'll come in as a blank warehouse shell building, just like all of my projects are, and it's 1 per 1,000. But then what happens, the next guy, I get hired to make that an office building. Those ones on 170 are a prime example. We just did a nail salon. It was based on 1 per 1,000. We got 32 nail stations in that place.
So what'll happen is we'll start taking the square footage, like if it's 1 per 350 and counting in those parking spaces. And then when they get to them, they're not gonna have, if they don't have enough parking, they're not gonna be able to,
One size fit all.
they're gonna have to provide.
It's a problem that, and the warehouses are going up like crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. When do we, I know it's a whole lot of warehouse going over, when do we stop it?
We'll have to talk hardy about that.
I tell you, man, it look like every month there's a warehouse going up in this
So,
county. Randy,
it's gonna
Okay,
get way worse.
before we call for adjourn, not for the open discussion tonight, I want to discuss in the next meeting occupancy, when you give permission for occupancy of a building.
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
occupancy of the building.
The occupancy of.
Oh, like you say, they have to have restroom, running water. There's too many businesses in this town, when you go in there, they got to sign up. Bathroom not working.
Right.
But we don't want to discuss it tonight.
So, we'll probably have to ask our building official to come talk about that, but, our standards don't apply to the town limits of Ridgeland, so it really depends on.
All over the county. And I mean, I'm trying to research it through the state, but I want to find out the real fact. Is that legal?
So, yeah, if you'll make note to ask the building officials. And I believe that we're gonna have Beaufort Jasper water sewer unless, I think they're planning on coming next month to give a presentation about their capital improvement projects and the water and sewer availabilities and.
That'd be nice.
Well, there are a lot of these, Mr. Pinckney is right, there's a lot of these businesses, and I asked the question, I said, your employees are here 8, 12 hours, what do they use?
And we have already received a rezoning application for next month. And
Okay,
I believe.
we stand adjourned. We stand.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to let you know how much we have coming next month. I think we have the Beaufort Jasper water presentation. Then we also have the, I think we're going to have a PDD, and we do have a rezoning application. So looks like a pretty big meeting for next month.
In person
We'll
as
ask
well?
the building officials to come.
Another in person with all that. I'm
Yes.
sure, yeah. Good.
It would be nice if you would have a workshop on this stuff before we.
Are y'all available during the day?
Yeah, I did.
Not a-
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I'm wide open, I'm telling you.
Me too. I mean,
I'll be-
I have been here for 12 hours
was in North
today.
Carolina
I have a
earlier,
9
so.
a.m. meeting.
I got here just in time to eat a bite of
For a
pot pie.
discussion of this, there was too much not explained in the center, I think Center Point, not the one on, in Hardyville, but the one out on 170. I think they could have
Get
done
it.
a better job of
It don't have to
explaining
be
this
so.
stuff. Are we adjourned?
Yeah, we stand adjourned to our next
Thank
scheduled
you.
meeting.
Okay.
See you all next time.